So let's be honest here. Who starts building a house without first making sure they have enough money to finish the project? I mean, who does that, right? Makes sense. You don't hire a contractor and say to yourself, well, I'm not exactly sure I have enough money to see it through to completion. And you might say to yourself, well, yeah, what kind of a fool would do that? Guess what? I've actually seen this happen. Maybe you have too. Right across the road from my grandparents' house, Grandma and Grandpa Jones, there was a block foundation laid, and it's really interesting because for years there was this block foundation just across the road from my grandparents' house, and I don't remember when it got started, but I do remember seeing it at some point in my my younger years, and at some point, I'm not sure, I might have been 15, somewhere around there, I finally asked Grandma Jones, I said, well, what is up with that place over there? I mean, for years, all it's been was these block walls. You could see where they had planned to put like a laundry room in the basement or a game room in the other part of the basement. But it never got beyond the block foundational walls. They never put the floor joist in. Nobody ever came along and set up walls. It never reached beyond the excavation of the pit, the pouring of the concrete floor, and the building of the block walls. And my grandmother said, well, and she mentioned a name, I don't know who it was, but she said that they ran out of money to finish the project. And I remember thinking to myself, that sounds foolish. It is, right? It's foolish. Well, Jesus says the exact same thing about our spiritual life. He says the exact same thing when we stop and think about what it means to be his disciple. Diligence in our walk of faith, or diligence and our walk in faith, and how the two intersect. Let's explore that topic today. My name is Pastor Greg, and this is Transforming the World. In Luke 14:28, Jesus says that as a person considers becoming a Christian, they should not begin until they count the cost. That's kind of my paraphrase there. Being a Christian requires diligence. Again, that's persistent work and effort. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people who approach Christianity with a rather lazy attitude. And maybe you have met these kind of individuals. They kind of coast along and just sort of let things happen. They don't have a goal in mind. They don't have any kind of desire to grow as a Christian. They say the words, they get baptized, they join a church, and for the rest of their life, they pretty much just remain stagnant at that point. That's the lazy man's approach to Christianity. That is not showing any diligence in our Christian faith. Being a follower of Christ is something that we need to pursue with diligence. But the lackadaisical way that some professing believers approach their relationship with God is a reflection of just how lazy they are. Nowhere in Scripture, nowhere in the Bible are we given an example of this sort of who cares attitude when it comes to growth as a Christian. Jesus made it clear that those who wish to be his disciples must be all in, Luke 9:57 through 62, unless we diligently pursue righteousness and obedience. You and I are going to experience failures unless we pursue our righteousness with diligence. we're going to experience failures in our walk of faith, in our life as a Christian. I mean, let's face it, the world is far too appealing, and the temptations are far too abundant in this world. There's just too many excuses for turning away, and that's why Jesus emphasized that the greatest commandment, of course, is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. At Mark 12:28. And of course, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. In other words, life's ultimate goal is to diligently love the Lord, and of course, all actions flow from the posture of our hearts. And when we make diligence the common ingredient in everything we do, and when we choose to do godly things, we actually set a standard for ourselves that will propel us toward godliness and a life of excellence. Remember how I said yesterday that in the work environment, it is the diligent worker who is rewarded for being on time, to giving their best. Employers notice this, and it's the diligent worker who gets the raises, right? The advancements. The same thing in our spiritual life. It is the diligent Christian who grows in their faith and is able to withstand all the temptations of the world. You think, as you look at that person, how in the world, with the crisis that hit their family, how could they maintain their faith? How could they maintain their faith in God? You want to know why? Because they were diligent in their walk, and they matured. They grew in their faith. We must be diligent in our growth as Christians. We became a disciple of Jesus, so one day we would become a disciple maker. We diligently grow and mature until we are prepared to actually help another person begin the same journey of faith. Disciples become disciple makers, and that requires diligence. That's our goal. That's what we're working toward. We're going to continue to explore diligence on transforming the world. Thanks for being here. My name is Pastor Greg, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.